Risk of returning to lockdown remains very real if countries don't manage transmission carefully, according to the World Health Organization. An epidemiologist in the Philippines warns of a so-called third wave COVID-19 infection in the country. Philippine National Police to probe 2 more barangay chairmen allegedly involved in social amelioration program fund distribution anomaly. The Philippine economy enters a negative territory in the first quarter of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. Amazon indigenous groups launch international fund to fight coronavirus. Brazilian children channel emotions through art during lockdown.
The World Health Organization underscores that the risk of returning to lockdown remains very real if countries do not manage transmission carefully. The WHO reiterates its recommendations to countries when deciding on lifting lockdown measures. Our El Camilla reports why.
As more and more countries ease their lockdown restrictions, the World Health Organization reiterates the 6 criteria it has set a guidance for countries when deciding on lifting coronavirus measures. Surveillance is strong, cases are declining, and transmission is controlled. Health system capacities are in place to detect, isolate, test, and treat every case and trace every contact. Outbreak risks are minimized in special settings like health facilities and nursing homes. Preventive measures are in place in work, schools, and other places where it's essential for people to go. Importation risks can be managed, and communities are fully educated, engaged, and empowered to adjust to the new form.
The risk of returning to lockdown remains very real if countries do not manage the transition extremely carefully and in a phased approach.
Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus also reiterates that a strong and resilient health system is one of the best defenses not only against outbreaks and pandemics, but also to the multiple risks the world faces every day. The WHO DG reports that the world spends around $7.5 trillion on health each year. That's almost 10% of the global GDP. He highlights that the best investments are in promoting health and preventing diseases at the primary healthcare level.
Prevention is not only better than cure, it's cheaper and the smartest thing to do.
He adds that the COVID-19 pandemic will eventually recede, but there can be no going back to business as usual.
We cannot continue to rush to fund panic, but let preparedness go by the wayside. Now is an opportunity to lay the foundations for resilient health systems around the world, which has been ignored for long.
R.L. Camilla, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
An epidemiologist warns of a so-called third wave COVID-19 infection in the Philippines. He says this could happen if Filipinos become complacent after the government's community quarantine measures are lifted. Aiko Miguel clarifies why.
Many Filipinos are unaware that the second wave of COVID-19 infection has hit the country since the previous months. This is according to an epidemiologist who is a member of the Interagency Task Force Sub-Technical Working Group. Dr. John Wong warns the third wave of the COVID-19 infection may occur once the government decides to lift the ECQ and open or relax sectors after May 15, especially when Filipinos become complacent.
So this is actually the second wave, no? Because the first wave was in January. After this flattening of the curve, and then when we relax ECQ, no, we will see another surge of cases, no? Maybe a third wave. No?
According to Dr. Wong, the third wave can be prevented or be avoided when Filipinos will observe minimum health standards like physical distancing, wearing of face masks, proper cough etiquette, and regular washing of hands and maintaining cleanliness.
Right now, we're protecting each other by self-quarantining at home, no? But once ECQ is relaxed and we're able to go out, no, we have to remember that we have to protect ourselves, protect our family, and protect each other.
Dr. Wong warns the pandemic will not end unless a vaccine is made available, which may happen in 18 to 24 months' time. Health experts continue to advise Filipinos should live the new normal way of life while waiting for the cure for COVID-19. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, some cities in Metro Manila may be placed under general community quarantine next week. But according to Interior Secretary Eduardo Año, there are still 8 days to go, so better wait for the data analytics. Rosalie Cos explains why.
Various cities in Metro Manila have improved their containment of coronavirus disease 2019. Because of this, according to Interior Secretary Eduardo Año, some cities may be placed under general community quarantine after the enhanced community quarantine period expires on May 15th. Secretary Año particularly mentions the cities of San Juan and Valenzuela. But according to Malacanang, the government's basis for its decision does not change. That is, the doubling rate of the cases of the infectious disease as well as the capacity of medical critical care in a certain area.
So malamang ito po yung mga basihan sa deklarasyon ni Secretary Año na posible nang bumalik o magkaroon ng GCQ ang Metro Manila, pero hindi lang po ako sigurado kung ito ay magiging para sa buong Metro Manila dahil sa iba't ibang mga syudad po patuloy pa rin po yung pagdoble ng sakit every 2 to 3 days.
The government is expected to release its decision next week before May 15.
The ECQ will end on May 15, so I suppose it will be a few days before May 15 dahil kinakailangan mag-transition din tayo to GCQ, no, para dun sa mga areas na po pwede na mag-GCQ.
The Duterte administration once again appeals to the public to stay at home so the government can decide easily on the ECQ. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The MRT3 management advises passengers should expect longer hours of queuing once train operations resume after May 15. This will also apply in LRT trains. Joanne Nano tells us why.
The MRT3 management is preparing several measures for the new normal. Once the ECQ in Metro Manila is lifted after May 15, the MRT trains will return to the tracks to once again serve commuters. MRT riders may expect to see markings inside the train coaches as well as in most parts of the stations. These aim to impose physical distancing. Only 153 passengers per train set is allowed. Senior citizens, pregnant women, and passengers from 21 years old and below are prohibited to get on board. All passengers should submit themselves to body temperature screening. Wearing face mask is a must. With these new policies under the new normal, the MRT3 management advises passengers to expect long queues and longer hours before they could take the rides. The MRT3 management also enjoins private companies to consider flexible work schedule for their employees to avoid the influx of passengers at MRT stations.
They have to allocate more time sa travel time nila kasi alam naman nila doon sa dati nating normal mahaba ang pila, matagal din sila pumipila. Much more dito sa bago nating new normal, merong compliant doon sa social distancing.
The MRT management say they are planning to increase the number of trains even during off-peak hours to include 3 Dalian train sets that pass decommissioning.
Talaga magdadagdag tayo ng tren, no? All available trains, yung mga 15 to 16 trains natin, na dati-rate mini-maintain natin sa 15, tas non-peak hours, medyo may reduction ng konti. Ngayon talagang kailangan i-deploy natin the more trains available.
Even the LRT 2 or Light Rail Transit Authority has placed markings inside the trains and stations of LRT2. On the other hand, the Light Rail Manila Corporation is still finalizing the new guidelines for LRT1 operations, which will be publicized next week. Under the new normal, LRT2 will ferry only 160 passengers per train, while LRT1 trains will accommodate only 158 passengers per train set. Joanaro, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Although shopping malls in areas that have transitioned to general community quarantine are allowed to reopen their doors, the government still limits their operation. So if you are a resident in a GCQ area, do not expect a mall sale. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The Interagency Task Force Against COVID-19 releases its updated guidelines for malls and shopping centers allowed to reopen for business in general community quarantine areas. But one prohibition that remains is the conduct of sales events. The aim is to prevent a scenario of overcrowding.
Wala muna po tayong sales at saka mga marketing events na magdadahilan para magdagsaan ng tao, no?
The number of people inside malls will also be limited to 1 person per 2 square meters. The number of open entrances shall be reduced. Only 1 companion is allowed for every senior citizen, pregnant woman, and person with disability. A 1 meter apart social distancing measure must be observed. There should be assigned personnel in high-density areas. On escalators, standing is on every other step. Even access to elevators will be limited. There should be markings or reduced seats available for waiting customers. Malls should create one-way flow to decongest queues and increase police visibility. Shopping centers must also regulate air conditioning to 26 degrees and free Wi-Fi must be turned off. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Jago William, I am here in EDSA Corner East Avenue in Quezon City on board the UNTV radio mobile booth. And outside we can see a few cars passing by and even some of our frontliners on their way home. And once this enhanced community quarantine is lifted, we are anticipating an increase in the volume of cars plying the major thoroughfares of Metro Manila. Meanwhile, let's take a closer look at the updated tally of the coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached a total of 3,768,535 confirmed cases in 187 countries, regions, and sovereignty. The fast-spreading disease has claimed more than 264,000 lives, while over 1.2 million patients across the globe have recovered from the coronavirus infection. The United States of America remains to have the most confirmed cases in the world, with a total of 1,228,609 cases and 73,431 deaths. Outside the USA, the next highest death toll is now in the United Kingdom, which has reported 30,150 COVID-19 related deaths. Turkey remains to be the country outside the USA and Europe with the highest reported coronavirus infections, now at 131,744. Meanwhile, the Philippines Department of Health reported today that as of 4 p.m., 339 new cases have been recorded, bringing the total confirmed cases in the country to 10,343. We have lost 27 more patients. Now the country's death toll stands at 685. With the help of our valiant medical frontliners, 112 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to 1,618.
Residents of Barangay Addition Hills in Mandaluyong City are expected to stay indoors for a week beginning today. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
Several personnel from the Philippine Army, the local police, and the local government unit of Mandaluyong City intensively patrolled around Barangay Addition Hills today. This is in accordance with the 7-day total lockdown being enforced in the community starting today. The city government opted to implement it due to the high number of COVID-19 cases in the barangay, which now stands at over 50 confirmed COVID-19 positive cases and 6 deaths. According to Barangay Captain Carlito Cernal, they exert all efforts to keep the residents at home. Relief goods as well as the cash assistance from the Social Amelioration Program have already been distributed to every eligible household. Residents may still buy basic commodities from the mobile market and food delivery services through door-to-door transactions. The major concern the LGU faces is the random rapid antibody testing among residents.
Yun ang pagpaplanuhan namin maigi, paano namin sila kukunin kasi nga meron lockdown. So, kukuha kami kunyari sa isang area o punta kayo doon, siguro assistant na natin mga bantayan para doon sa ating mga health center, marapid test sila.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
More than 30 medical practitioners who are also police personnel are deployed in the We Heal as One Center in Pasig City. Aside from assisting in the facility's operation, they are also advised to strictly observe safety protocols to prevent a further increase in the number of PNP personnel infected with coronavirus. Leah Ilagan explains why.
The Philippine National Police will manage the PhilSports Arena Quarantine Facility in Pasig City, which is now designated as a We Heal as One Center. According to PNP Health Service Director, Police Brigadier General Herminio Tadeo Jr., 6 doctors, 9 nurses, and 21 Medical Reserve Force or MRF personnel will handle the operation of the 132-bed capacity. They will be divided into 3 groups that will follow weekly shifting schedules. The facility will accept mild to moderate COVID-19 cases from Metro Manila East area. That covers Mandaluyong, Marikina, Pasig, San Juan, and Quezon cities. PNP Chief Police General Archie Gamboa reminds his men to also adhere with safety protocols very strictly.
Do not go inside if you're not fully protected and follow strict protocols, medical protocols para hindi sila mahawaan. Anyway, meron namang certain protocols yung relievo,
Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 cases among PNP personnel has gone up to 114. The 2 new cases include 2 male Metro Manila cops, a 29-year-old and a 32-year-old.
Ang lahat ng mga ito ay binibigyan ng kaukulang medical attention para hindi na po dumami ang bilang ng mga nagkakasakit ng mga pulis natin.
4 COVID-19 patient cops have died. 369 PNP personnel are considered as probable PUIs and 375 are suspected PUIs. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Interagency Task Force Against COVID-19 approves the Department of Trade and Industry and Department of Labor and Employment's interim guidelines on the workplace prevention and control of coronavirus disease. These include alternative work arrangements such as working hour shifts, work from home, and rotation basis. Some of the new normal in workplaces shall be mandatory wearing of face masks. Meetings conducted shall be with minimum number of participants to ensure social distancing, and if possible, meetings shall be conducted through video conferencing. Workstations shall be arranged with barriers in between tables to ensure physical distancing. The number of people inside enclosed spaces shall also be limited.
The Department of Health and the Food and Drug Administration approves a 20% discount on value-added tax or VAT exemption for vitamins and mineral supplements for senior citizens as long as they are approved by a physician. This is through a DOH administrative order which amends the previous order with the inclusion of vitamins and mineral supplements on the list of discounted medicines for senior citizens. This is also pursuant to the Expanded Senior Citizen Act of 2010, which defines medicines to include vitamins and mineral supplements. This move to clarify the inclusions of vitamins and mineral supplements among discounted and VAT-exempted drugs for senior citizens was prompted by a letter sent to the health chief by a senior citizens group last April 24. Senior citizens' rights advocate Romulo Macalintal thanked Secretary Duque for its action on the issue. Police will investigate 2 more barangay officials who are allegedly involved in anomalous distribution of cash aid from the government's social amelioration program. One of them is from Bicol, the other from Visaya. Lea Ilagan reports why.
PNP Chief Police General Archie Gamboa confirms that CIDG will investigate 2 more barangay chairmen who are allegedly involved in irregularities in distribution of social amelioration program benefits in their areas. One of them, a barangay chairman in Bicol region.
Ang anomaly is that the barangay captain distributes the forms before, tapos there's a question of yung sino ang dapat recipient.
The other one who allegedly gave the cash aid to his relatives is from Western Visayas.
Parang niece or nephew ng barangay captain who is not actually poorest of the poor are included on the list, no? But ito, for a startup, ito yung mga inimbestigahan. But there will be more.
The PNP chief orders all police regional directors to help in the investigation of corrupt local government officials in their areas of jurisdiction. He also appeals to the public to report to the police station any irregularities surrounding the SAP distribution in their areas. Lea Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
5 barangay leaders are facing complaints and Manila City Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso wants this probed. Dante Amento tells us why.
Manila City Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso orders a deep investigation on 5 allegedly erring barangay officials in the city. Those barangay officials are facing complaints raised by residents about irregularities in the distribution of assistance from the government. 4 of them are from Tondo, while the other is from the District 3 of Manila. Complaints include reducing the contents of food packages. Another is when a resident is given a 1,000 peso financial assistance, they will no longer receive a food box.
Conduct deep investigation about this complaint to the alleged 5 barangay official na nagkaroon ng omit or spurious yung mga sinasubmit nila.
Mayor Dumagoso assures appropriate charges will be filed if the allegations are proved to be true based on the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act and the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act.
Meron pa po sila na binigyan, patay na po yung tao, no? May pumirma doon sa mga tumanggap. So yan po mga iniimbestigahan ngayon ng pulis para sa criminal offense. No? Papailan talaga sila.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, experts say the recent Taal volcano eruption crisis as well as the present coronavirus pandemic have an impact on the country's economy. In fact, from January to April this year, the country's GDP or gross domestic product growth fell into a negative territory. Rosalie Cos explains why.
The Philippine gross domestic product shrank for the first time since the 1998 Asian financial crisis. According to the National Economic Development Authority, this is due to the Taal volcano eruptions and the coronavirus disease pandemic. The Philippine Statistics Authority reports a 0.2% growth domestic product for the first quarter of 2020. This is a negative territory compared to the 6.4% growth in the fourth quarter of 2019 and 5.6% during the first quarter of 2019. According to Acting Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Chua, the need to contain the coronavirus as well as to save thousands of lives through the enhanced community quarantine have taken taken a huge toll on the economy. Many businesses are forced to close. Many Filipinos lost their jobs, particularly in the manufacturing, transportation and storage, accommodation and food service activity sectors.
This is the first time real GDP growth fell into negative territory since 1998 during the combined El Nino and Asian financial crisis.
The official also believes the second quarter might be worse due to the extension of the ECQ. In the following days, the Duterte administration's economic team will work on the country's economic recovery program to prepare the public for the gradual reopening of jobs and businesses.
Now, we will use our policies proactively to ensure that we gradually normalize. We are hoping that with the mega swabbing, the 30,000 tests per day by the end of May, we can start to reverse the economic trajectory by June, so that by the second half of the year, we can fully recover.
We foresee a V-shape of economic recovery. There will be a steep decline in the GDP for the second quarter perhaps, but we expect a very strong rebound courtesy of the Build program of the government. And number one, very prudent fiscal policy as well as a prudent monetary policy.
Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
After the Duterte administration institutionalized the Balik Probinsya Bagong PAGASA program through Executive Order Number 114, Malacanang announced that the provinces of Camarines Sur and Leyte are ready to accept residents coming from Metro Manila. Under the national program, financial and non-cash assistance will be provided to affected residents through the Department of Social Welfare and Development, while the Department of Transportation will provide the transportation in coordination with the National Housing Authority General Manager, which is assigned to the Executive Director of the Balik Probinsya program. Regarding the long-term implementation of the Balik Probinsya program, laws must be passed for the government decentralization, tax incentives, and business opportunities.
Napag-alaman ko po na 2 probinsya na ang tatanggap ng mga babalik probinsya, ang probinsya ng Leyte at ang probinsya ng Camarines Sur.
Metro Manila residents will continue to enjoy sufficient water supply, while Meralco customers won't need to worry about electricity. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The National Water Resources Board, or NWRB, maintains 46 cubic meters per second allocation of water supply from Angat Dam for the entire Metro Manila. The NWRB assures the availability of water for every household to maintain cleanliness during the implementation of the enhanced community quarantine amid the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the water level of Angat Dam continues to drop. As of 6 a.m. today, it was at 189.29 meters, lower than yesterday's record of 189.47 meters. However, this is still higher than its minimum operating level of 180 meters. Maynilad and Manila Water serves their customers 24 hours a day, except in areas where maintenance works are ongoing. Meanwhile, as for Meralco, the power distribution asks its customers to conserve electricity because its facilities are experiencing an overload.
Yung facilities po namin, minsan hindi na po kinakaya yung sabay-sabay na paggamit po ng kuryente, kaya po nagkakaroon po ng problema kasi mainit din po yung mga kable.
The Department of Energy assures there is enough supply of electricity until the end of 2020. Energy Assistant Secretary Redentor De Lola estimates 30% reduction of electricity demand since the implementation of ECQ.
Sa mga bahay natin, tumaas yung konsumo. Bumaba naman significantly yung konsumo ng industries ng mga commercial establishments.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque believes that President Rodrigo Duterte will not veto the franchise renewal bill of the ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation if passed by the Congress. Malacanang said yesterday the president is completely neutral on the issue and even appealed to his allies to act on it. The franchise renewal bill of the giant network has been pending since 2014, and the National Telecommunications Commissioner NTC has issued a cease and desist order against ABS-CBN when its legislative franchise expired on May 4, 2020.
Unless there is any constitutional infirmity, I don't think the President is inclined to veto it. Sinabing na nga po ng Presidente, neutral ako dyan. Gawin nyo na ang katungkulan ninyo, bumoto ayon sa inyong mga konsyensya.
Media network ABS-CBN Corporation files a petition before the Supreme Court for a temporary restraining order to stop the implementation of the cease and desist order issued by the National Telecommunications Commission. The network filed a petition for certiorari and prohibition, which seeks to nullify the stoppage order of the commission issued a day after its franchise lapsed. According to ABS-CBN News, the NTC gravely abused its discretion when it issued the cease and desist order instead of deferring to Congress and issuing a provisional authority to allow the network and its stations to continue operating. The broadcast giant adds the order violates the right of the public to information and curtail freedom of speech and would cause serious damage on ABS-CBN and thousands of its employees if not stopped. Meanwhile, 13 senators signed a resolution urging the commission to reconsider its order against the media network. In resolution number 395, authored by Senator Risa Hontiveros, it cited the resolution passed by the Senate in March authorizing the NTC to issue a provisional authority in favor of ABS-CBN. It noted that the NTC had been allowing entities with expired franchises to operate years back. The resolution adds Filipinos deserve access to multiple sources of information, especially in the middle of crisis, and that the cease and desist order will affect and put the network's 13,000 workers at risk in losing their jobs. Here is Senator Risa Hontiveros had to say.
Even if I'm not yet optimistic dahil wala pang reaksyon ng NTC, pero hopeful ako. Lalo na sa tsunami ng reaksyon, negatibong reaksyon ng mga manonood dito sa Pilipinas at mga kababayan natin sa ibang bansa laban din sa cease and desist order na yan at yung sumunod na pag-off the air ng ABS-CBN.
The resolution also cited the Commission's liberality through its issuance of a memorandum order in March, giving a 60-day extension to NTC-issued permits, certifications, and licenses that lapsed within the enhanced community quarantine. However, according to the NTC, the memo is no longer applicable to ABS-CBN, as the authority to operate of the network granted by the Commission was also deemed expired after its congressional franchise lapsed on May 4. Here is a phone interview with Deputy Commissioner Edgardo Cabarrios, National Telecommunications Commission.
Under existing laws, yung mga radio stations ay nag-expire yan po every year. So, hindi rin nila yan every year. Ito po yung covered noon, hindi po yung authority. Kasi yung authority, merong validity yan, co-terminus yan with the franchise. Kung wala ng franchise, wala ng authority.
Asked to comment on the new resolution filed at the Senate, the NTC says they will defer to their legal department. The Department of Trade and Industry reported today that the DTI, together with the Philippine National Police Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or PNP CIDG, seized through an entrapment operation conducted last April 30 an estimated 3.5 million pesos worth of basic goods in Alabang Zapote Road, Las Piñas City. During the operation, the DTI and CIDG recovered more than 6,000 boxes of instant noodles, which resulted in the arrest of 2 individuals. The instant noodles were sold online at 9 pesos and 50 centavos per piece, contrary to the issued price freeze of basic necessities in the National Capital Region, which is 7 pesos and 75 centavos per piece, according to the DTI. The seized goods are allegedly the property of SM Investment Corporation. This is now being investigated by the CIDG. The arrested individuals will face charges pursuant to the Price Act or the Consumer Act of the Philippines, the Bayanihan Act, and Article 151 in relation to Article 14 of the revised Penal Code. The DTI calls on the public to cooperate by reporting incidents of overpricing and hoarding in the market. Always check the issued price freeze of basic necessities in their respective areas through the DTI website at www.dti.gov.ph. For complaints, inquiries, and or clarifications, consumers may contact the 1DTI or 1-384 hotline or send an email to consumercare@dti.gov.ph.
Amazonians in Brazil call for help to raise funds to fight the coronavirus disease creeping amongst their indigenous group. Spokesperson tells us why.
Indigenous groups from 9 countries in the Amazon Basin on Wednesday called for donations.
The aim is to help protect 3 million rainforest inhabitants who are vulnerable to the spread of the novel coronavirus because they lack adequate access to health care.
There is no health policy by the states to combat this disease within indigenous territories. And when the health policy exists, as is the case in Brazil, institutions refuse to provide this service or take this knowledge with broader information.
For these indigenous groups, said the failure of regional governments to consider the needs of indigenous people in their plans for curbing the pandemic made it imperative to find other funding to buy food, medicine, and basic protective equipment such as masks. The Amazon Emergency Fund aims to raise $3 million in the next 2 weeks and $5 million over 60 days. Its organizers at the coordinating body of indigenous peoples of the Amazon Basin said on a conference call. Coronavirus has already infected 180 of the 600 indigenous tribes of the Amazon Basin. 33 of their members have died in a single month. The fund will be managed by the Rainforest Foundation US, an NGO that works to protect jungles in Central and South America. It will wire funds directly to grantees' accounts. The Foundation Executive Director Susan Pelletier said, indigenous communities are the guardians of the rainforest, whose survival is critical for maintaining life on Earth.
Indigenous peoples across the Amazon are the last line of defense against forest destruction, and they're our best hope of mitigating climate change.
For the Rainforest Foundation US, this pandemic is not only a humanitarian emergency, it is also an environmental emergency. And as the World Health Organization constantly says, the antidote to this pandemic is national unity and global solidarity. Chris Perez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Reports emerged on Thursday that Britain would outline a phase 5 stage plan to ease the coronavirus lockdown from Monday next week, May 11. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to announce the changing restrictions on Sunday, reported to start with the reopening of garden centers and more people being encouraged to return to work from Monday. By the end of May, primary schools are planned to reopen with smaller class sizes before secondary schools return a month later alongside gatherings of up to 30 people. Pubs and restaurants are then forecast to open their doors in late August with strict social distancing rules in place, while gyms, leisure centers, and professional sports return in October. Britain now has the highest COVID-19 death toll in Europe and is second globally behind the US. Australia's two most populous states on Thursday refused to allow a one-day reprieve from strict limits on personal movement for this weekend's holiday, even as the country's rate of new coronavirus cases remains low. The premiers of New South Wales and Victoria said the state's roughly 14 million residents, 56% of the country's population, would have to stick to existing restrictions. Australia has confirmed just under 6,900 COVID-19 cases, including 97 deaths. The rate could rise as other states and territories report during the day.
Meanwhile, streets of Moscow are relatively empty today as Russia records over 11,000 new coronavirus cases. Russia has been in partial lockdown since the end of March to curb the spread of the virus. People in the Russian capital can leave home to visit the nearest food shop or chemist, walk their dog, or throw out rubbish, but need special passes for other activities. Moscow, which has emerged as one of the worst-hit cities in Europe, remains the center of the epidemic in Russia, with over 85,000 confirmed cases. In Zurich, Switzerland, violinist Deborah von Willer performed on Wednesday in front of the residents of a retirement home foundation, bringing at least one of them to tears. Despite the easing of curbs in Switzerland, elderly people are considered at risk and are encouraged by the federal government to stay at home. The care home's residents are all over 65 years of age and have hardly left their apartments for weeks. To cheer them up, the administration decided to organize various concerts like one von Wilmer gave. The young violinist who works in another retirement home said a tenant there suggested that it would be nice to have some music. As Switzerland is starting to ease COVID-19 restrictions, the situation for the elderly will not change much in the coming weeks. Children can express themselves through art. In Brazil, UNICEF has encouraged several kids to channel their emotions through art amid the lockdown. Some say they are sad, while others say they are happy. Nina Armilio tells the story why.
Children have always had a unique way of expressing themselves, and UNICEF Brazil came up with the Feelings on Paper program. The aim is to get children to use their creativity to help them deal with the stress and worry over lockdowns amid the coronavirus pandemic. Hui Aguiar, the head of UNICEF's office in Fortaleza, says that what kids came up with was a range of colorful emotions with drawings, illustrating sadness, happiness, and the boredom that comes with being stuck inside their homes.
There are very contradictory feelings. We can see that the children are afraid of the coronavirus, but they also dislike it. They're disgusted by the coronavirus. They're angry, as if it's become a villain in their drawings. So, there's that feeling of fear and dislike of the coronavirus.
9-year-old Lucas Fontura says he has mixed emotions. 8-year-old Leticia Nakano Lee, on the other hand, says she wishes she could play with her friends. But 7-year-old Rafaela Yasmin happily says she is joyful to be with her family at home, while 8-year-old Gabriel Oliveira Novai understands he has to stay home to be safe from the virus. Brazil is by far one of the hardest hit nations in Latin America, with over 105,000 confirmed cases and more than 7,000 deaths as of today, according to the health ministry. While Brazilians initially supported nationwide social isolation measures by wide margins, polls have showed support slowly slipping, with one late April poll showing a statistical tie between those who favor a generalized quarantine and those who favor allowing low-risk individuals to return to work. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Our kasangbahay, we are at a time when the country is under a state of health emergency. The cooperation of all Filipinos is imperative to avoid the further spread of the deadly virus.
We are calling on everyone to be calm. And most importantly, let us join together in prayer for our country and for the whole world to survive this crisis.
You may join us in our daily UNTV community prayer at these hours as flashed on your screens. Behind the news, May 7, 2020. I am Herlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And I am Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know. We will always ask why.